Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are starting lesson 17.4, that is stem and leaf plots and histograms. And our TEKS is measurement and data 6.12.a, represent numeric data graphically, including stem and leaf plots and histograms. So this is page 505, and I believe we will go all the way through 507, so hopefully you have both of those torn out. And let's see, our essential question today is how can you display data in a stem and leaf plot and in a histogram? So we're going to start with explore activity. And it says making a stem and leaf plot. You can use a stem and leaf plot to display numeric data. Each data value consists of a stem and leaf. So we have a question here, and it says the 12 members of the high school basketball team have a free throw drill. Each player attempts 50 free throws. The number of free throws made by each player is given. So there's all those free throws that they've taken. Now, part A says group the data by tens digits, then order the data from least to greatest. So go ahead and pause the video and order your number from least to greatest, please. Alright, that shouldn't have been too bad. We've been doing a lot of that with our median information the last couple days, so hopefully you got the same as me. 33, 35, 35, 36, and 44. Part B says let's organize the data in a stem and leaf plot. Use the 10 digits as stems, which is what it's doing right here. So the 1 for the 19, the 2 for the 23, 25, and 29. That's our example. The 3 for 30, 32, 33, 35, and 36. And then we've got our 4 for our 44. So what I want you guys to go ahead and do is pause the video and see if you can fit those numbers in their correct leaves. Okay, so yours should have ended up something like this. And what we're doing is our stem is going to be our tens place, and our leaves are going to be our ones place. So all we do is just take the data from up top and we distribute it between our stem and leaf plot. So notice right here it says the data value 29 appears twice. Yes, it does. Point proven. So we need to make sure that we put the 9 twice. We don't just get to forget about a number because we already have it written down. The next blue piece says that the key indicates that 2 with a 3 represents the number 23. The stem is the 10 digits, the leaf is the 1 digit. See, it's just repeating exactly what I just said. So if you forget what I said, you can read that to get a refresher. What I want you to do now is stop and do the reflect part. So go ahead and pause the video and answer that, please. We'll discuss it in class tomorrow. Alright guys, so I've just flipped over my page and I'm now on page 506, analyzing a stem and leaf plot. I know we've mentioned this before, but here's a QR code just to get a little bit of extra help if you feel like you need it. But we're going to go ahead and move on to example 1. So what it's got listed below are some scores that Val has scored on his quizzes lately. So part A says find the median and the mean. Those are two keywords that you should know how to do already. Remember, the mean is the average and the median is the middle number. So it says for the median there are 15 quiz scores. The median is the 8th value. So if you started from the top and bottom here, just like we list them out, and you work your way through it all, you will find that 7 is the median number. Okay? So that's a pretty quick way to do that. Saves you a little bit of time. The next is the mean. Remember, this is our average, and it says you find the sum of the data values and divide by 15. So what they did is they added up all of our scores, and they got 1,230. And since there are 15 scores, that's our data value, and they divided 1,230 by 15 to give us the mean, or the average is 82. That's what it tells us right there. Alright, part B says which measure of center best represents the data? Justify your answer. So let's look at the shape of distribution. The quiz score of 32 is much lower than the other scores, so it is an outlier. An outlier. That was a word that we talked about yesterday. Remember, it is either an extreme above the data or an extreme below the data, but it really does hinder what's going on in our actual data. So if the outlier is not included, the mean score would be higher. The median, 87, better represents the data. So what this is basically just telling us is that the outlier does affect all of his test scores, and if he didn't have it, his test score would be closer to the actual represented data. Alright, here's the fun part. We're up to your turn. So what I want you guys to go ahead and do is pause the video and try to work through questions 2 and 3 on your own, please. Alright, so question number 2 says how many seasons are included in the stem and leaf plot? What is the best number of home runs a baseball player had in one season? What is the least? I'm sorry, the word least. So the baseball player has played in 12 seasons. Hopefully you guys counted up all of these numbers in the leaf section, and if we do, we should get 12. Also, the second part of this question says what is the least amount of home runs that he's hit? Well, right here, this is our 0, and it shows that he hit 0 home runs. So he has 0 and 0. So that means that the least amount of home runs that he has hit in one of his seasons is 0. Alright, and number 3, go ahead and pause and answer that question, please. So I just found the median, and what I did was, you could have looked at the numbers up top here and just gone the way that we showed you earlier, counting from top to bottom. What I went ahead and just listed them from least to greatest, and then when I did it all together, I found that my median is 8 and 9. Now you could have added those two together and divided by 2, which would have given you 8.5. So the median for this problem is 8.5. So I want you guys to go ahead and pause the video and now find the mean of this. Alright, so I know it looks like I've got a lot going on down here, but what I did was I added up all of my data to give me 141, and then I divided it by 12, which was the number of data values that I had. Yes, we have to include the 0, guys. Just because he didn't hit any home runs, it was still considered a season. So when I find the average, divide 141 by 12, I find that my mean is 11.75. So what that tells us is that the median is closer to the central tendency because we had 44, which appears to be an outlier. So this changes our mean. So just because he had a really good season doesn't mean that it's the best representation. That throws off most of our data. So the median is the best representation of the center. Go ahead and turn to the next page. It should be 507, and it should be titled Using a Histogram. Once you get that out, go ahead and pause the video and read that first sentence about histograms. Alright, so a histogram is a type of bar graph whose bar represents the frequencies of numeric data within intervals. So if we're looking at example 2, it says, a bird watcher counts and records a number of birds at a bird feeder every morning at 9 for several days. It lists his data. It says make a histogram of the data. So step 1, make a frequency table. That's what they've done right here. They divided the data into 4 equal size intervals of 4. Make a frequency table. Okay, so they made a table and they used intervals, which is going to be a range of numbers that we can use. It always has to remain even in order to keep our histogram accurate. So what they did was they decided to do 1 through 4, 5 through 8, so on and so on, and then they put the number of times one of those numbers occurred during that interval. So the second step is to make a histogram. It says the intervals are listed along the horizontal axis, so the vertical axis shows the frequencies. For each interval, draw a bar to show the number of days in the interval. The bar should have equal widths. They should touch but not overlap. Alright, so part B says, what does the shape of the distribution tell you about the situation? So go ahead and pause the video and read part B for me, please. Alright, very nice. I hope that cleared up a little bit for you. And now we're on to you guys' favorite part. Don't worry, we're getting pretty close to the end. We're moving on to number 4, your turn. I know you just processed a lot of information up above this in example 2, but this is our turn to see if we understood it, okay? I hope you guys do, so go ahead and pause the video, try this out. I'm going to do it as well, and then we'll talk about it here in just a second. Alright, so what I did first was I made a frequency table just like it showed us an example up top there, and all my intervals are the same, and then I just listed my frequencies. This personally just helps me to look at all my data a little bit better than just trying to figure it out from here. And then what I did was I put my answers or my data onto this graph. So see, here are my intervals down here, and then my frequency is on my y-axis. Then my histograms go together. So I've got between 1 and 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 7, and 2. And then the last question says, what does the shape of the distribution tell you about Kim's rating? So Kim gave a rating of 7 or 8 to about half the movies, 7 of the 15, and she gave extreme to only 3. So she only gave 3 great reviews, and the rest just did so okay or pretty bad. Alright guys, I hope that this helps. Please put any questions that you have in the comment box. We'd love to take care of those tomorrow. Hope you guys have a wonderful night, and please make sure to do the Google document questions. Thanks guys, have a good night.